Hello, you're welcome back to my channel. So if you're still dividing your measurements by 4, I will not totally say it's wrong, but this will be a diversion from what you already know. So I'll be creating these bodies, dividing the bust measurement and the waist measurement by 2. So first off, I'm creating my neckline of 3 inches width and 3 inches depth. Okay, and then I will place half of my shoulder measurement on my shoulder line. At that point, I'm going down with 1 inch for my shoulder slope, and I'll connect it to meet my neck width. So from that shoulder slope, I'm measuring half of my shoulder measurement again, getting the midpoint of that so I can form my arm curve. I'll connect the shoulder slope to the 8.5 inches there, and that becomes my chest line. So getting the midpoint of my chest line from the shoulder slope, I'll go in with 1/2 inch, and I will use the curve part of my pattern master and create a curve from the shoulder slope to my chest line. So then I'll get my vertical measurement. From my shoulder line, I'll measure downwards, and I'll mark my bust point, that's 11 inches, and I'll connect this line. I am trying to make sure that the space I have is the same thing, and then I'll connect the dot, and that's my bust point. And from my shoulder line again, I am measuring downwards 19 inches plus 1 inch for hemming allowance. I'm drafting the top half of the bodies. Okay, so I need that 1 inch to seam both the up and the skirt part. So I'm labeling my lines so I will not be confused. My chest line, bust line, half length, and then my shoulder line. So now, this is where the formula comes in. Bust circumference divided by 2 plus 1. I'm using 45 divided by 2 plus 1 inch, and that I will have 22.5 plus 1 inch, that's 23.5. And dividing that by 2, I have 11.75, and that I place on my chest line. And for my waist circumference, divide by 2 plus 0.5. Now 0.5 is because we have the tummy in front. So I'm adding that 0.5 to my measurement. And dividing that by 2, plus that 0.5, I have 20.5. And because we're cutting this on fold, I'll divide that by 2, and I have 10.25. So for my bust dart, I can go up with 1 inch or 1 inch on the bust point, okay? But if I'm taking up with 1 inch, it will enter into my arm cuff. So I decided to make it 1/2 inch upward and 1.5 inches downwards. That's because the front bodies will have to be 2 inches longer than the back bodies, but at the same time they will have a meeting point, on the side there. So I'm connecting my bust dart to meet 1 inch before my nipple to nipple line. Now the nipple to nipple line here is 8 inches, and I divide by 2, I have 4 inches, and that's what I marked to get that line there. So when I'm done with this, I'm just cutting out my front bodies. And then I'll place it on my back bodies. For the back bodies, I'm using 1 inch for the zipper allowance. Now, traditionally for me, my bodices are always 1 inch higher for the back bodies, 1 inch higher at the shoulder line, and 1/2 inch wider at the arm cuff. So I'm gonna put my front bodies on the back bodies like this, and I'll place it on the back center line there, as you can see it. So on my shoulder line, I'm going up with 1 inch. So this kind of bodices, I make it for, those ready-made gowns that you don't see bustier, but then they are so fitted to the body. So I like to use this. There sometimes I can just use it without those bust darts. I can use it without bust dart, okay? Dividing that by 2. But because I want this to be more feminine, so I added that bust dart. So I'm trying to get the midpoint of my chest line now. At that point is where the arm curve will be half inch wider. Okay, so I'm just using my pattern master to connect my shoulder slope to my chest line. And then I'll extend it to meet that 1 inch I made higher than the front bodice. So now I'll mark the chest line. Okay, so it will correspond with the back chest line. And I'll measure from my front shoulder line. I'll mark the back bodice, the back half length plus half inch for seaming. Okay. So I'll simply cut the front bodice on the back bodice like so, just that at the arm curve is half inch wider and the shoulder line is 1 inch higher. So cutting through my bust dart like this is what it looks like. And you can see the room it's creating for the bust, okay, in front. So now when I get this, I will have to mark, to mark the points that I have there on the back bodies. So when you're sewing it, the front and the back bodies will be equal at the side. So I'm going to confirm that line to make sure that it is 2 inches, and I'll connect it to meet my back half length plus the same allowance I have there. So indicating my chest line on the back bodies, okay, I will now contour the back bodies. So now for the waist line there, I have waist circumference divided by 2 minus 0.5. Remember that 0.5 we added to the front bodies. So I'm subtracting that from the back bodies. And when I subtract it from the waist measurement, dividing by 2, whatever I have there, I am placing on the waist circumference. So on the chest line, the bust circumference divided by 2 minus 1, 45 inches divided by 2 minus 1. That gives me 22.5 minus 1, and I have 21.5. So dividing that by 2, 21.5 inches divided by 2, I have 10.25, and I'll mark that. So for the midpoint from the back center line, I'm creating a new back center line going inwards at my back half length, I'll then slant it to meet the back center line. I'm creating another zipper allowance like you can see me doing this video. Okay, I'm connecting the dot now, and that will be our new center back and this zip allowance. So now I'm just cutting this out, and that's it for the back bodies. So for the neckline, you can just create any neckline that you want, okay? But basically, I like to use 3 inches wide and 3 inches depth. And on the back bodies, it's 3 inches width and 1.5 inches depth. If you're getting value from this video, please give me a thumbs up, comment and share, and ask whatever question you like us, you want to know for clarity. So thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.